Former President Barack Obama is finally breaking his silence as Donald Trump's so-called blockade of the Persian Gulf is blowing up and resulting in an escalation of hostilities in Iran. Donald Trump's catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran is now continuing to spiral out of control, and Donald Trump doesn't have a plan. And finally, former President Obama is weighing in. He gave an incredibly powerful interview to The New Yorker. The author of this article, Peter Sven, interviewed former President Obama. The article was called, "Barack Obama Considers His Role in the Age of Trump. The Former President Remains One of the Most Popular Politicians in the Country. What are his obligations to it?" And initially, the article contrasts the fact that Donald Trump's approval is essentially the lowest in presidential history at this point, even lower than Richard Nixon at the time that Nixon resigned. And he compares it to former President Obama's current popularity, which is through the roof. Not just among Democrats, where it's approaching 100%, but among independents, it's incredibly high. Even Republicans who are not full MAGA have a positive feeling about former President Obama. So, what did he tell The New Yorker, and how did he lay out and criticize Donald Trump? Let me explain to you some of the key quotes from this article. They are indeed powerful. Former President Obama says that American leadership, as represented by the American president, has to reflect a basic regard for human dignity and decency, not just within our own borders, but beyond. And he says that Donald Trump essentially reflects the worst of America. That's part of the responsibility of leadership. Obama says that if we are not giving a voice to those core values of decency, that there are innocent people in countries with terrible governments, and we have to care about those people. We can make mistakes if we are not guarding against hubris and pure self-interest. If we don't have those things, the world can break in very bad ways. It's what we talk about on the Midas Touch Network all of the time. Values and principles, empathy and decency, which Donald Trump completely lacks. Regardless of your political party, we should strive to be decent people. We should strive for peace. We should strive to be caring and to reach out, not bully marginalized communities, but lift people up and try to understand and certainly respect the shared humanity of all of us in this world. Then Obama drops some truth bombs about Netanyahu and how Netanyahu tried to extort Obama into going to war with Iran and doing the exact thing Netanyahu has been doing with Donald Trump, and how Obama resisted it. Obama says, "I think my prognosis was correct when I rejected Netanyahu trying to get us to go to war with Iran." It may be that Netanyahu now has gotten what he wanted with Donald Trump, but whether that's what is ultimately in the best interest for the Israeli people, I would question that, and I don't even think he needs to say I would question that. Let me answer that. What Netanyahu has done has been horrific for the entire world. Let's not mince words. Netanyahu is a war criminal. Donald Trump is a war criminal, and they both deserve to be tried in The Hague forthwith. Obama. He doesn't say that. I said that. Obama goes on to say whether that's what is ultimately best for the Israeli people. I would question that. Whether I think it's what is good for the United States and America, I would question that. It is certainly not good for the United States of America. Obama goes on to say, "I think there's ample record of my differences with Netanyahu." And Obama talks about how he resisted exactly what Netanyahu is now doing with Donald Trump. And Obama predicted exactly what was going to happen when Obama spoke with his advisors. Obama said, regarding America's standing in the world, Obama goes, "America's allies can no longer count on us being the hub of that international order. The tragedy of this all is that there is still no one that can replace us. If we don't talk about human rights, Human rights don't get talked about that much. If we aren't concerned about climate change, truthfully, other countries can give lip service to it and do some things, but they're not really going to tackle it. So, our leadership is still going to matter enormously, but it's probably going to start with leadership by example more than anything else rather than dictates. Strong words from the former president saying American allies can no longer count on us. It is a simple statement, but it is the truth. And he goes on to talk about how Donald Trump threatened war against Canada with 51st state rhetoric. War against Greenland. We're going to seize you, which in turn is a war essentially against NATO. And Donald Trump cozying up to Putin. Obama says, I do think that repairing the damage that's been done to the international order is going to be even harder than some of the domestic repairs. I think one way to think about it is that the post-World War II order was one of America's better moments. That whole system, for all of its flaws and all of its contradictions, helped ensure that the world was less violent, healthier, wealthier, more equal, more respectful of human rights. And Donald Trump tore it all apart because the most powerful country in the world said, we're not just going to throw our weight around for the sake of it. We're not just going to go ahead and demand tribute and bully people. We're going to be part of some larger consensus around how things should work. This is what I've always been saying about former President Obama or former President Biden, which is if they wanted to invade Venezuela and take it over, they could do that. If they wanted to use the might of the United States to threaten allies and be a bully, they could do that. But that causes damage to the international order, which in turn weakens the United States. And it also signals to authoritarians abroad, like Vladimir Putin, okay, if you take Venezuela and this is the law of the jungle, the law of the strong, then I'm going to do it also, or I will justify what I do by saying, look, the United States is out there doing it as well. These are strong and accurate words by former President Obama. I'm Michael Popak, and I've got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popo Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popo Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years. So, my own law firm, organically building on my Legal AF work, just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states, known as big auto injury attorneys, who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So, if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment, harassment, or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popo Firm today at 1-877-POPAF or by visiting my website at www.thepopafirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Pop Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way. He goes on to talk about how now on the issue of we're going to be part of some larger framework. He then talks about civil rights. He goes, you know what I say? No. You know what? Civil war, really bad. Jim Crow tough, really bad. Let's not return to this era. Our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents went through stuff that was profoundly tougher than we're going through. And I say that not to pull rank on them, but rather to pull them out of any kind of hopelessness about the situation. He goes on to say, we cannot unilaterally allow one of the two major parties, the Republicans, to rig the game constantly. We need to fight back. He goes on to say, anyone working to harness the power of new tools, whether it's AI or advances in technology, needs to make a choice. Ignore potential problems until it's too late, or proactively address them. We need to proactively address them. He goes on to say, I strongly believe that my highest and best use now is to help find the next set of leaders who are going to help move us forward. And part of it is because I think the very best leaders can tap into the zeitgeist of the moment. He goes, sure, I get discouraged sometimes like the rest of you. I feel worn out sometimes and tired and embattled, but we have to keep going. We will overcome this. There will be a world beyond Trump. What's required in these situations is a few folks standing up and giving courage to other folks. We all have the capacity, I think, to take a stand. If convictions don't cost anything, then they're really kind of just fashion. I don't take these things personally. I mean, I'm always offended when my wife and kids get dragged into these things because they didn't choose that. That's a line that even people whose politics I deeply reject, I would expect them to care about. I would never talk about somebody's family the way Trump talks about my family. And this is in Trump's world. That's what MAGA wants, even when they don't know what the hell they're even doing. And here's the thing. America is not the project of any one person. The single most powerful word in democracy is the word we. Even I'm surprised about how bad Donald Trump has been. He's exceeded my worst expectations. But we, the people, will overcome. We shall overcome. Yes, we can. We will do it. Now, after dropping that interview, former President Obama, through the Obama Foundation, was releasing a lot of incredible videos as well. For example, an interview that he gave with Admiral William McRaven, Navy SEAL, 4-star Admiral, one of the most decorated Navy SEALs, member of our military in general, who was in charge of the raid that led to bin Laden's capture and killing. And so, as Donald Trump is out there screwing everything up in the Middle East, Obama, the Obama Foundation, drops this interview right here between Obama and McRaven. Here, play this clip. There was an American flag that had been taken on the mission. It had been on the helicopter, and it had come back intact, and all of the members of the team who had participated had signed it on the back, and they wanted to present it to me as a gift. That meant the world to me, because it signified that in some small measure, they felt as if I had been true to the mission and their sacrifices, that I had taken it seriously and soberly. I have been part of this broader process in a way that elicited trust from them. Now, as Donald Trump continues to look like an utter fool, the Obama Foundation also releases this Happy World Laughter Day. Nobody did it better than former President Barack Obama. Let's play this clip. Dad jokes for every occasion. As the father of 2 teenage daughters, I know the whole time you were just like, and then he said, girl, I couldn't believe it. I am told that the last 3 speakers here have been the Pope, Her Majesty the Queen, and Nelson Mandela, which is either a very high bar or the beginning of a very funny joke. As I do, I want to take a moment to recognize the brave turkeys who weren't so lucky, who didn't get to ride the gravy train to freedom, who met their fate with courage and sacrifice, and proved that they weren't chicken. It's not that bad now. Come on. And then finally, the Obama Foundation dropped this video yesterday as well. Never stop believing in the power of your ideas, your imagination, or your hard work to change the world. Let's play it. Keep exploring, keep dreaming, keep asking why. Don't settle for what you already know. Never stop believing in the power of your ideas, your imagination, your hard work to change the world. In contrast, there have been videos like this going viral over the past 24 hours that the Midas Touch has been posting. Here's what Donald Trump said when he was campaigning back in 2015. Let's play it. The battlefield trying to kill us. That's the negotiator we have. Take a look at the deal he's making with Iran. He makes that deal, Israel maybe won't exist very long. It's a disaster. And we have to protect Israel, but so, we need people. I'm a free trader, but the problem with free trade, here's what Donald Trump said back in 2012. Let's play it. I can tell you that right now. But, you can use that military. They are in big trouble. Saddam Hussein totally outplayed his hand. He overplayed his hand. Gaddafi overplayed his hand. They see that in Iran. And you know what? It's going to happen to them unless they come to the table. And if you had the right leader, you would have them at the table right now without having to waste lives and billions of dollars. All right. If so, assume that we did have them at the table. What in the world do you think it is that we could offer them to persuade them, to convince them, to scare them, or whatever it is for Iran to step down on nuclear weapon development? Survival. It's survival. That's what we offer them. It's pure and simple. A horrible thing to say. It's survival. They won't survive. I mean, they are in deep trouble if they carry it. And I've said before, I think Obama will go to war with Iran because I think he views it as good politically. And that's pretty sad, and it's a pretty sad thing to have to say. But I think he will absolutely go to war with Iran. I think he views that as a positive from a political standpoint. And I think he's just waiting for the right moment. And I think Iran better be damn careful, because they are overplaying their hand just like Gaddafi and just like Saddam Hussein. Ronald Reagan won the Cold War by, or here's what Donald Trump said back in November 2011. Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get re-elected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength, but to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an out. Now, what Donald Trump has left is bragging about cognitive exams and saying that Obama would never pass the Trump cognitive exams for dementia. Okay, Donald, here, play this clip. Him a cognitive test. I took 3 of them. Aced all of them, by the way. I'm the only president. I'm the only president to take a cognitive test, because I don't think Obama could pass it. I don't. Didn't he get into Harvard with a C average? I don't know. What's that? I don't think he could pass it. I don't think... Well, Biden, isn't it? Give me a break. The first question is very easy. It's a lion, a giraffe, a bear, and a shark. They say, which one is the bear? And everybody says, 30 questions. Everyone says, very standard. It's a very standard test, but very tough around those last 10 questions. Not too many people, even in this very room, unlike, I'll say this room of geniuses, he said. I'm in a room of dumb people. That was not good. That was not good. You know what happened to him after that? It wasn't pretty. But I'm in a room of brilliant people, but a lot of you wouldn't have been able to answer those 10 questions. And when I got the score on the test, the doctor said, wow, I've never seen... You have 5 doctors lined up. They're all over the place. And finally, you have former President Obama. he gave this powerful interview recently with Brian Tyler Cohen, my buddy. Brian's great, of course. And here's what Obama said about decency. Let's play this clip. First of all, I think it's important to recognize that the majority of the American people find this behavior deeply troubling. You know, it is true that it gets attention. It's true that it's a distraction. But you know, as I'm traveling around the country, as you're traveling around the country, you meet people, they still believe in decency, courtesy, kindness, and there's this sort of clown show that's happening in social media and on television. And what is true is that there doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost. But the reason I point out that I don't think the majority of the American people approve of this is because ultimately the answer is going to come from the American people. There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thank you so much for watching. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So just double check that you're subscribed. Thanks for watching. Love this video. Support independent media and unlock exclusive content. Add free videos and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.